Hi, Connor. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on. I saw that you guys had a couple other people that I knew came on like a couple months ago, so happy to be the next on board. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. And it sounded like we're going a little bit back in time for a project you worked on a little while ago.
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at the project in about, I mean, the last I presented it was in June, so that would have been about 5 or 7 months ago. I'm good at chemistry, not at the calendar. But yeah, that was the last time I looked at it, so it was little bit a while ago, and I'm like completely moved on from the university and the project, so it's nice to look back.
Totally. And part of my hope with this interview series in general is that we can put these conversations online and really extend the life of this great work that you did. Really appreciate you joining me. And today we're talking about volatile organic compounds, specifically in banana species.
hmm
So, what drew you to this specific application of headspace GC? And was it flavor science itself or the analytical challenge in general?
So it's we got to go back to like a year and a half ago at this point now. So I was working on an organic project at the time, completely unrelated. But I had a supervisor that I really wanted to work with, and I was like, "Hey, I want to do an honors project. Would you be my supervisor?" And she said, "Yeah, of course. What do you think you might want to work on?" And I was like, "It'd be really cool to do something with like food science." And then she's like, "What? Like what?" And I said, "Well, why does banana flavoring not taste like bananas?" That was the original big picture question. I was like, why does it taste so different? And she, being an organic chemistry prof, was like, let's do it. So the whole idea moving up and leading into it, and my proposal even said that I was going to try to make a banana flavoring, but I had to figure out what was in the banana. So the first thing was to analyze it. And that just ended up becoming the whole project. So my organic prof, her name's Jess Allingham from TRU. She worked on an analytical project with me, and I had a lot of support from the department and people in the department to help me. We ended up getting to the point where we found out the different VOCs that we could detect in the banana species and the banana flavoring, and we could compare them. From there, you could technically make a new banana flavoring, but I mean, that's a lot of money to make like 18 different esters or alcohols and then also like make sure it's food safe. And we didn't have a food safe lab. So it was kind of like a pipe dream, like way down the line that someone else could work on it. But yeah, it was a definitely a passion project. Like kind of stemmed from this little idea and kind of became this like big project. And it's really fun. It's just like great to talk about. People love the banana project. I love talking about it too because I don't know, everyone likes food, everyone eats food, so we should know what's in it, right?
That is the goal, I suppose. You just reminded me of those runt candies because
Yeah,
I enjoy
yeah,
the flavor. Some people would say it's the worst one of the bunch, but
yeah.
I enjoy them and they taste good, but not so much like actual banana.
No, and I think that's kind of the charm of it is that it has the resemblance of banana, but it doesn't actually taste like it, you know? And that's why people will be like, "Oh, banana is a better flavor." People will just go back to the fruit. Fruits are so interesting. They do their job of making flavoring so well. Like obviously we're not going to have actual banana candies. Like it'd be a very daunting task. People have tried with varying success, I'd say.
And I believe you analyzed two different banana species. Could you walk listeners through what compounds you identified and how that differed between the two species? And was there anything that surprised you about those results?
Yeah. So off the top of my head, the most important one in it is the isoamyl acetate. That is what is typically known for banana candy. You have it as the largest abundant compound, coming in at about 30% of the flavoring profile in both. But between both bananas, it actually varied. So the two bananas that I analyzed were the Gros Michel banana, which was the previously thought extinct banana. I can get into that in a bit, but also we compared it with the Cavendish banana, which is the banana that you get from your grocery store. And then I also looked at the actual marketable banana flavoring. I don't want to say the name because it's not. I don't want to get in trouble, but we analyzed the banana flavoring as well to see if it's like modeled after this old banana. There's this idea that is out there, and a lot of the listeners might be like, isn't the banana flavoring modeled after this old banana? No, it's not. And believe it or not, that's just kind of like this old myth that people have come up with, because back in a little history lesson, back in the 30s was when the Gros Michel banana was really struggling to survive because of the Panama disease that was wiping the species out. So you couldn't buy a banana even if you tried. It was a very sought after fruit, and it just kind of was an issue. So they had banana flavoring come in. You could buy banana flavoring and you could use it as a replacement, and that's just isoamyl acetate because it tasted the most like it. And so people kind of, from my understanding, just synonymously said that the banana flavoring was modeled after the banana because they couldn't get the bananas. And then by the time the banana went extinct, or extinct, you can still buy it. By the time it went extinct and the new banana came in, people kind of just like had this nostalgic feeling about the banana flavoring, and then we're like, oh yeah, this matches the banana. The takeaway is the banana species are actually very similar in their flavoring compounds. There was a minor difference with isoamyl acetate, which is the most abundant compound. In the Gros Michel banana, it had more, at about 36%, and in the Cavendish banana, it had 33%, based on how I analyzed them. And I just did a direct comparison using the same methods and everything. And then there was also, in the Cavendish banana, there were 17 compounds additionally, and then same with the Gros Michel. All of the compounds are relatively the same, and if there's any difference in it, it's like a fingerprint amount of whatever compound it might be, which does help actually affect the flavor. But for the most part, they're relatively the same. It's the sugar content and the minute differences between the compounds that give it a different flavor for that older banana in comparison to the current banana that we have now.
So if I understood you correctly, you have the one compound which is cited as the banana flavor
Mm-hmm.
compound, the isoamyl acetate, and then your research examined 18 or so other volatile compounds, and those other minor compounds impact that or create that authentic banana flavor due to their varying sugar content.
It's a combination of the varying amounts of flavor, and then also the amount of sugar content separate will make a difference with how the flavors interact, and like not interact, but like how you perceive the taste of them. The old banana is termed as a dessert banana, and it was actually a very sweet banana in comparison to the Cavendish banana that we have today. I would argue that it's actually a way tastier banana. If I had the opportunity to, I would only be eating Gros Michel bananas, but they're a little expensive and they're hard to find, so it's not ideal.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed a couple trips to Puerto Rico, being from the East Coast. That's a short flight from Boston. It's about the same flight time as flying to Florida to get to San Juan. The difference between the fried plantains that are more potato chips versus the more desserty foods, you can certainly pick up on the different compounds just based on the aging and the starch sugar balance.
Yeah, I mean, like even when you're in like Central America, like pineapples taste different, right? Like avocados taste different. Like everything tastes different because it's just from the source, right? And they have more varieties of them. We know a very specific variety that ships well, like the Cavendish banana ships really well. So that's how we know the flavor of it, because that's just like the mass sent one out. But there are thousands of banana species. If you go to Central America, there's a blue ice cream flavored banana. The banana's blue and it tastes like vanilla ice cream. There's another banana that is red and tastes like delicious apples. There's so many different species, right? So it's just nice to be able to try these things. I wish we could mass export some of them because, man, they are delicious. It comes at a cost, though. You definitely spend a nickel and a dime to get the bananas. So when we had to import our bananas, there's a distributor out of Miami. So we had to order our bananas from Miami. The shipping was $100. After shipping and everything in Canadian, it ended up being like $20 a banana. I ended up eating like 6 of them because they went bad so quickly. I recommend anyone listening that if you get the opportunity to try one of these old Gros Michel bananas, I'm not going to say it's going to change your life, but it might.
I'm certainly going to try now after this to get
Hmm.
my hands on one. One thing I enjoy doing is getting into the nitty gritty details in terms of the analytical work. And unfortunately, it sounded like there were some instrument downtime issues that impacted your data collection. If you were able to do your process again, do it differently, how would you run the project?
I would say it'd be nice to at least know what the issue was early on. The issue that I had was that the headspace injector needle needed to be changed. It maybe was the liner, maybe it was something inside it. I don't know what the issue was, but that was the reason why I was having issues. I would go in one day and then run my sample of just the Cavendish banana, and then I'd be like, cool, I'm getting peaks. This is a great result. The parameters I run the exact same the next day, I get just the baseline. Even in changing the parameters to fit with it, just the baseline. And it was like that for months. And they changed some stuff. They changed the column. They changed a couple of different things, but it was just the headspace needle. I think like if I had known about that, it could have been that as the issue sooner. It would have been great for me because then I would have had more time to run it. And then maybe even optimize my parameters because my parameters worked well to be able to detect them. But I would have liked a little bit more separation and then also lower the run times as well so I could run more samples. That was a definite shortcoming that I had with the project. I will say that, like, of coming from TRU, Thompson Rivers University, my old undergrad university, um, we do very fun projects, very cool projects, but like we only have one GCMS, so we were like it has to be used for classes, has to be used for a bunch of other applications. So it would have been nice to have my own, which I mean I feel like is like a pipe dream for so many students doing research, and just to have your own instrument. Yeah, the shortcomings were very challenging, but like luckily it managed to fix itself within like the last 3 weeks before my report was due. And so I actually was able to get results, and I'm grateful for them fixing it and making it work for me because then I was able to get cool results and then finalize my project, right?
Absolutely. You were able to finally get it done and get past that roadblock. And I suppose in the end, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
It would be great if you could walk us through what that Headspace GC workflow looks like, including what sample prep steps were critical and maybe why you chose Headspace over direct injection or maybe some other methods you could have tried.
Sure. I'll start with the logic behind why I chose to do Headspace. I read something that said that the volatile organic compounds that come off, like the smelling profile of it, is very closely related to the flavor profile. I did a little bit of background research, and there was nothing directly comparing banana species using Headspace of the bananas that I chose. I wanted to try using Headspace and see how it worked, and then look at these VOCs. The part of the idea back to like when I started the project too was make a new banana flavoring, because that also I was trying to extract the VOCs from it, which failed. I'll get to that in a minute. But the VOCs were what I wanted to see, right? So then in my mind, I was like, well, best way to look at VOCs is with Headspace, and then just take a sample of the compounds that are volatilizing in the vial, and then should be good. So when we were doing the sample prep method, by we I mean me, I was alone on this project. I it was a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error with a broken instrument. It does not work very well. So we had this is like what the final product ended up being. So I would have the headspace files, and I would put and weigh out like 0.5 grams of a banana. Just let's call it the Cavendish banana for now. Put it in the vial, mash it up, and then put a little bit of water in it. I think I did like 1 ml or something just to standardize it, but I don't think that the amount necessarily matters. And then I put it in a warm water bath at 50 degrees for 5 minutes. This is just to help it volatilize a little bit more for the lower boiling point compound so that when it actually gets injected, more can go into it. So then I just put it to the GCMS and it put it in the oven. I will say I cannot remember specific parameters off the top of my head because, like I said, it's been a while. But what I will say is the oven time that the headspace vial actually set in there for was not very long because I pre-volatilized it, and I don't want to ripen the banana because ripening the banana means that you get unwanted VOCs. So that's why I did like the little water bath to volatilize it to make it so that it doesn't ripen as much and get the unwanted VOCs, because you want to look at what a banana actually tastes like. You don't want to look at what a banana from your freezer tastes like that you put in banana bread. So from there, it injected using headspace, and basically with a gentle ramp, I was able to look at the flavor profile and then get good separation, a little bit of tailing, don't tell, and good separation to be able to look at these compounds, and then using the NIST database, look at what the compounds are. Because it was a qualitative study. I wasn't trying to quantify anything, so I just wanted to know what was in it, and then used the percentage of the chromatogram actual peaks to see how much is in it per sample to kind of get an idea as to like the percentage composition. So yeah, that was the basic rundown.
You're the second researcher in a row who has talked about the value of the NIST database.
It's great. It definitely saved a lot of headache. And if I could have made it a quantitative study, I would have. But that led into a bunch of issues as well, trying to do that.
Did you use any extraction techniques like solid phase microextraction? And if so, how did that impact the sensitivity and reproducibility of your work?
So that was before I even started analyzing. I was trying to separate the VOCs from the compound. And I tried to separate them and extract them. I used two different methods. I used steam distillation, which obviously will have some problems when you heat up a sample. It had to be like 100 degrees to be able to have the water boil, and then you just have the banana ripening in a round bottom flask. So that didn't really work very well. But there was some work done that you could actually do a small scale CO2 extraction by having a little extraction vial with like a little coil, like make a little stage with a filter, load your banana sample, and then put dry ice in it, and then close it, and then put it in some warm water, and then it'll cause the CO2 to flow through the banana and then extract the VOCs. Great idea in practice, but because of the density of the bananas and the water content not really being there with bananas, it had a really hard time penetrating the banana. But this was the summer before the semester started, so I spent several hours changing little things here and there. I changed the size of it. I changed the sample prep for the bananas itself. I tried freeze drying. I tried nitrogen freezing. I tried drying it and grinding it up. And like, I tried so many different methods, and I was actually unable to extract the VOCs that way. There would have maybe been an opportunity to use solid phase extraction or supercritical fluid extraction to be able to extract it, but it didn't work. And then solid phase microextraction, I considered using it, but I still wanted to stick with the head phase to be able to see what the results were. But looking back and knowing what I know now, as I've learned a lot about gas chromatography in grad school now, I wish I had done a comparison between solid phase microextraction headspace and headspace to be able to see how they compare, because it would have been nice to know how much sensitivity I'm losing, or like how much of the analyte is missing from the peaks.
And I know we left this question really general on purpose, so feel free to take it wherever you would like. But what detection challenges did you face with the banana matrix in general?
Oh man, any sort of fruit has obviously a matrix. And since I was using the solid fruit, it was not a great situation. There are matrix effects that happen with it. I didn't address it in my project, but I wish I did. I wish I did some sort of standard addition to be able to actually see and quantify how much of the peaks are available. Hindsight's 2020. You see everything perfectly after you look back on it, right? So in the moment, I was more worried about actually getting a detection signal than being able to detect past the matrix. That is a definite shortcoming of the project that I wish I addressed. Once I get my PhD, maybe it's going to be one of those things I go back on and just do it for myself, just to see like what the difference is. I'd like to know if there were some compounds or how much of it can be quantified past that interference.
And at that point, you might have some of that dedicated equipment you mentioned that'll be just for your use.
That'd be the dream. Give me like 5 GCs, 5 LCs in a lab, and oh man, I'll be doing so much fruit research. It'd be so good.
And that's certainly when we can have a follow up conversation because
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you'd be doing a lot of cool work moving forward. And speaking of your current role, it sounds like you're doing LCMS instrument development. So that's different from the research we're talking about today. But what lessons from your Headspace GC work have you carried into your current role?
I found that just being used to working with the instruments made me very comfortable with working with the GC. A lot of undergrads I know did not have that opportunity at their universities. And that was kind of the benefit of the university I was at. It's being a smaller university, I get more hands on time. So, because of that hands on time, I can feel more comfortable working with instruments. And then that translates super easily into LCMS, where I can't directly talk about what I'm working on, but I'm working on a new interface. So, working with the software and everything, I'm able to, I feel a lot more comfortable working on an instrument now than I probably would have a year ago. Because it was like a big scary thing. It's like, oh, if you break it, it's like they're going to bill you, they're going to charge you, you don't get your degree. It's nice. And I feel a lot more comfortable being able to work with these instruments now. And it definitely is like a little bit of a blessing because I know a lot of people are kind of scared to even approach an expensive instrument like that. But people need to work on instruments still. Like I almost want to say a dying art. There's likely still people working on instruments, but not a lot of people that want to go into analytical want to work on instruments. A lot of people want to analyze. That's kind of like the mindset that people have now. So it's nice to be able to not be one of the few, but the future of the many.
Makes sense. For listeners interested in moving from GC to LCMS, or maybe just for separation scientists in general, what recommendations do you have for someone who's really looking to build up that background and their foundation of understanding?
Do you mean just like their actual experience? Like how would they be able to improve their
Yeah,
foundation?
yeah, absolutely. I think the main audience for these conversations is really undergraduates who are just starting to learn about these topics and they're applying them. And I could certainly see a scenario where someone's doing one type of work now and they're looking to transition into something else, somewhat like you have. So, yeah, any general advice you have would be great.
The one thing I can think of is just you have that initial conversation. You say, hey, I really like the work you're doing. I want to learn more about LCMS or GCMS or ICP-MS, whatever it might be in analytical. And then just say, I really want to work with you. I want to learn more about this thing. Can you please help me? I think like a big thing that people have a hard time with is that initial conversation, that initial, call it an email, call it a meeting. That is the biggest recommendation I give to anybody that wants to get into the field of like instrument research, any sort of research, even as a whole. Just have that conversation.
Yeah, it seems like the main advice of just asking for help, or as you've highlighted, which I think is spot on, really indicating your interest in a specific area. If you can put those two things together, you're on the right track.
I like to think that people that are working at universities care about your learning and that they are willing to help you push to learn what you want to learn. And it's as simple as just showing your interest, and then that gets your foot in the door for a longer conversation, for sure.
Was there anything else, Connor, regarding your specific project that you would like listeners to know about?
If anyone wanted to work more on the project, you can feel free to hit me up, find me somehow. I'm at U of A. This work is very easily applicable to different foods, different fruits, for example. Look at grape flavoring and then grapes, right? You could directly compare the grape and grape flavoring to see what the primary compound is in grape flavoring. Grape flavoring does not taste like grapes very well. Same goes for like cherries, same goes for strawberry flavoring. You could use it for adulteration testing. You could check and see if someone that's making a flavoring, it's actually a natural flavoring or if it's an artificial flavoring, which was one of the takeaways that I had from my project, was that they claimed that it had other natural flavors, but it only had 3 compounds. I won't say who it was, but just there's so much work that can be done still with the flavor industry. And I think if you have an interest in flavor chemistry, just dig into it. Like there's so many relatively easy projects that can be done, and you just have to want to do it. Anything that you think of, it's like, why does this taste so bad? Why does this taste weird? There's probably a metabolite in it. There's probably a flavor compound. Look into it.
Yeah, I was super attracted to your work just because I feel like you were asking a question basically everyone has asked in terms of they've had bananas, they've had flavoring. It's totally different. Digging into it, super interesting. And I really appreciate you, Connor, coming on and sharing it with the audience.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. And maybe in the future, I'd be happy to come back on to talk about more GC stuff when I have a new project or when I'm a PI,
Thanks, Connor.
Awesome. Thank you.